Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Lee, and I wanted to take time to talk to you guys about marriage. A lot of times, marriages don't work because the focus is wrong in marriage. Anything with the word I and me in marriage is going to lead to disaster. It's going to lead to discomfort. It's going to lead to displeasure. It is not a healthy thing to have in marriage. So before you get married, you need to make sure that you drop those things off before you jump in. Stop getting in love with the idea of getting married. Stop getting in love with the idea of the day of marriage, because the day only lasts a day. After the honeymoon is over, it comes the real. A lot of times people put their children before their spouses. That's wrong too. See, the marriage is the head of the situation. And so the enemy wants to come and cut the head off. So even if you're bringing children into the marriage, it is wise for you to make sure that the proper perspective is that your spouse is first. Next, you got to have a strong fear. Not next, but the most important thing is to have a strong spiritual foundation and have that in common. Because if you don't have that in common, you're doomed anyway. Once the spiritual part, the next most important thing, and it is really key, is for it to be all about your spouse. Everything you do, every decision you make, every step you take, every move you make, you need to think about your spouse, and you need to think about how you want to be treated, and you need to think about what your spouse would want you to do. Because really, at the end of the day, that's marriage. You got to think about what your spouse wants. Now, when it comes to spiritual matters, that's something totally different. You got to honor what our Father in heaven says. But when it comes to your spouse, you have to consider your spouse in every single decision. And just because you know your spouse is going to give you the answer that you don't want, you still have to go to your spouse and seek your spouse out and communicate that with your spouse. So for the husbands, it needs to be all about the wives. And for the wives, it needs to be all about the husbands. The children are going to get love because that love is going to pour down, because remember, you're the head. So if I pour water on your head, when the water comes down, it's going to trickle down to the body. So your children, they're below the head, so they're going to get love if you are reciprocating and loving on each other appropriately. The children are going to get an abundance of love, and those that are around you are going to get love because everything is in proper working order. So you want to make sure that you are putting your spouse first. You should know your spouse before you marry them. If you don't know your spouse, well, it's not too late to get to know them. Get to know your spouse. Find out what makes your spouse happy, sad, glad, mad. Make sure you don't push any of the wrong buttons, and make sure you push all of the right buttons. That's your mission. That's your assignment. That's what you're supposed to do. All right?